From the outside, Judy Garland was one of the brightest stars Hollywood ever produced. Her voice enchanted millions. Her films defined generations, and her iconic role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz remains one of cinema's most enduring performances. But behind the curtain, Judy Garland's life was a relentless tragedy, a story of a child star crushed by the weight of fame, exploited by a merciless studio system, trapped in cycles of addiction, and ultimately consumed by the very industry that once celebrated her. This is the untold tragedy of Judy Garland. Judy Garland was born Frances Ethel Gumm on June 10, 1922, in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. The youngest of three sisters, she was born into a family already deeply involved in vaudeville. Her parents, Frank and Ethel Gumm, ran a theater, and from the moment Judy could walk, she was placed on stage. By just 2.5 years old, Judy was singing Jingle Bells in front of audiences. Those who saw her perform described her as a natural, her voice already powerful, rich, and filled with emotion. But even as a child, Judy's life was not ordinary. She wasn't allowed the carefree childhood most kids had. Instead, she was groomed to be an entertainer, drilled with rehearsals, and taught that applause equaled love. Her mother, often described as a classic stage mom, was strict, controlling, and determined to make Judy a star at any cost. Later in life, Judy would call her mother the real Wicked Witch of the West. By the early 1930s, the Gumm sisters were performing together as the Gumm Sisters, but their unusual name often drew jokes. They eventually changed it to the Garland Sisters. When Judy was just 13 years old, her incredible voice caught the attention of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer MGM, Hollywood's most powerful studio at the time. MGM signed her to a contract, but they weren't sure how to market her. At 13, Judy wasn't a glamorous blonde bombshell like Lana Turner, nor a sweet ingenue like Shirley Temple. She was short, had a round face, and studio executives cruelly called her names like the fat little pig with pigtails. To control her appearance, MGM immediately placed Judy on a strict regimen. Diet pills to suppress her appetite, sleeping pills to help her rest, and daily criticisms about her weight and looks. This was the beginning of a lifelong struggle with body image and addiction. MGM was notorious for its strict control over its stars, but Judy's treatment was particularly harsh. The studio worked her to exhaustion, sometimes filming 18-hour days. To keep her awake and energetic, MGM doctors gave her amphetamines. When she couldn't sleep, they gave her barbiturates. Soon, Judy became trapped in a vicious cycle of stimulants and sleeping pills addictions that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Executives constantly reminded her she wasn't pretty enough. They bound her breasts with tape to make her look younger, forced her to wear rubber discs on her nose to reshape it, and restricted her diet to chicken soup, coffee, and cigarettes. Behind her bright smile on screen, Judy Garland was suffering in silence. The Wizard of Oz, A Blessing and a Curse, in 1938, MGM cast Judy in the role that would define her career, Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz. At just 16 years old, Judy poured her heart into the role, and her performance of Over the Rainbow became an anthem of hope for generations. The film made Judy an international star, but it also marked the peak of MGM's control over her. The set of The Wizard of Oz was a nightmare. Judy was kept on a strict diet of coffee, chicken broth, and pills. Her iconic blue and white gingham dress was deliberately chosen to make her look slimmer. Even worse, she endured harassment from studio executives and inappropriate advances from older men. Though The Wizard of Oz was a massive success, Judy's innocence was gone. She was now Hollywood's property. The struggles of a star. By her late teens and early 20s, Judy was one of MGM's biggest stars, appearing in films like Babes in Arms, Meet Me in Street Louie, and Easter Parade. She was beloved by audiences for her singing, her vulnerability, and her ability to light up the screen. But off-camera, her struggles deepened. The pressure to stay thin and energetic kept her hooked on pills. She often broke down during filming, unable to keep up with the grueling demands. MGM executives grew frustrated, suspending her multiple times for being unreliable. At just 23, Judy attempted suicide for the first time. She was overwhelmed by exhaustion, depression, and a sense that she would never be free of MGM's grip. Judy Garland's personal life was as turbulent as her career. She married 5 times, each marriage reflecting her desperate search for stability and love. Her first husband, bandleader David Rose, ended things after MGM pressured her to focus on her career. Her second marriage to director Vincente Minnelli gave her a daughter, Liza Minnelli, who would go on to become a star herself. But Vincente was distant, and their marriage crumbled. Her third marriage to producer Sid Luft was perhaps her most defining. He became her manager, helping revive her career in concerts and live performances. They had 2 children together, Lorna and Joey Luft, but their relationship was marred by violence, arguments, and her continued battles with addiction. 2 more marriages followed, but none gave Judy the happiness she longed for. By the 1950s, MGM had dropped Judy from the studio. Her reputation as unreliable had spread, and her film career stalled. But Judy was not finished. She reinvented herself as a concert performer, and her live shows became legendary. Audiences were mesmerized by her raw emotion, her powerful voice, and her ability to turn personal pain into unforgettable performances. Her 1961 concert at Carnegie Hall is still considered one of the greatest live performances in music history. She also made a remarkable comeback in film with A Star is Born, 1954. Though she delivered one of her best performances, she lost the Academy Award to Grace Kelly, a snub that devastated her. Despite her success, Judy was plagued by financial troubles. Her generosity and poor money management left her broke. Managers and husbands misused her earnings, and she often found herself in debt to the IRS. Even as she filled concert halls, she was never financially secure. She once joked, "Behind every star is a man who manages her, and behind him is another man who steals from her." By the late 1960s, Judy's health was in rapid decline. Years of pill abuse, financial stress, and heartbreak had taken their toll. She performed in small clubs, sometimes forgetting lyrics or collapsing on stage. Her once glorious voice was strained, and the public who had adored her now saw a fragile shadow of her former self. In 1969, Judy married her 5th husband, Mickey Deans, a nightclub manager 12 years her junior. Many believed he exploited her vulnerability rather than saved her. Just months later, tragedy struck. Death at 47. On June 22, 1969, Judy Garland was found dead in her London home. She was just 47 years old. The cause was an accidental overdose of barbiturates. The little girl who had once sung about a land somewhere over the rainbow had been destroyed by the very system that created her. Her death shocked the world, but for those who knew her struggles, it was a heartbreak they feared was inevitable. Judy Garland's legacy. Judy Garland's story is one of immense talent, heartbreaking exploitation, and the cost of fame. She gave the world unforgettable performances, a voice that could move mountains, and a vulnerability that made her timeless. But she also revealed the dark side of Hollywood, the way the industry chewed up young stars, dictated their lives, and discarded them when they were no longer useful. Her daughter, Liza Minnelli, carried forward her legacy, but Judy Garland remains a tragic reminder of the price of stardom. Judy Garland was more than Dorothy, more than a star. She was a woman who wanted love, freedom, and peace, but who was denied those things by an industry that valued profits over people. Her story forces us to ask, how many stars must be sacrificed before Hollywood changes? For Judy, the rainbow was always just out of reach.